Coach, how you doing?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. How you hanging in there with everything that's been going on?
Everything is good, man. Cannot complain. Everything is moving along as we're supposed to at this point. So everything is good.
Yeah. Well, first things first. Actually, congratulations on a baby girl on the way.
I appreciate that.
How much longer do you guys have?
Less than a month.
Wow, that's right around the corner then.
Right.
Have you guys locked in the name yet?
No, we're rolling around 3 names, so it's down to Morgan, Jordan, and Shay. So those are the 3 names.
Right. Well, in case you care, I voted Jordan. So.
Oh, you did?
I voted Jordan. Yeah. Yep. So if that matters to you guys.
My wife will have veto power on that. So as soon as she lays eyes on her daughter, she'll be able to, figure out what she looks like to her, and then we'll all rally around that decision and go from there.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So my wife and I, we have 2 children, and for our daughter, our first child, we had 3 names. And then when we went in and the baby was born, we looked at each other. We were like, "Which name are we going with?" And we went with a completely different one that wasn't even
really.
So yeah, when you see the baby, you kind of be able to make that decision.
I realize I'm going to step out of the decision. I was going to support the decision. I like all the names equally. So at this point, I'll just support the decision. And she's got all the heavy lifting. I'm just kind of there.
Yeah. No, that's very exciting. So yeah, let's get this thing going. One thing I enjoy, and I know a lot of others enjoy as well, are how successful people got to where they're at. And one of my favorite podcasts is Guy Raz, How I Built This. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a podcast where, companies like Instagram and Amazon, all these big companies, how they actually start, and you get like the details to it.
Okay.
That's kind of where I want to start, where, everyone sees your present position as an NFL coach and don't really know how you got there and, how much time and hard work it took for you to get there. I don't know how many interviews you've done and how much detail you want to go into, but just to start this off for the people that aren't familiar with you, could you just kind of give a brief rundown?
Sure.
Yeah. On your journey and where, how you got to where you're at today.
Sure. So I grew up in a small town outside of Springfield, Massachusetts called Agawam. And I went to Boston University at first, and they dropped football my very first semester there. So, starting at X, I was really excited about, being in Boston. I'm a big Red Sox fan, big Celtics fan, and in the school I want to be at, really good business program. So I thought I had everything figured out. They dropped football, and then I transferred to the University of Maine with Coach Jack Cosgrove, really good program up there as well. Was there for 3 years, 3 full seasons, and had a good career up there. I learned a lot, had some really good coaches, and then I had an opportunity to go to the New York Jets as an undrafted free agent. Kicked around the league, bounced around from the Jets to the Raiders in the practice squad, then active in Denver, then NFL Europe, then got hurt, was out for I was on IR for a full season with Denver. Then I went back to the Jets and then to the Saints. So it was 4 years. And was hurt, and then I went back up to Maine, started coaching. I still had school to finish up, so I took 27 credit hours as a first-year coach, and I was the restricted earnings coach. Made $12,000 for the entire year after I had graduated. After I had about 6 months for $0, and got my credits. I ended up coaching the receivers and the tight ends while I was getting my degree. So knocked that out in a year, and I went to the Naval Academy Prep School as the offensive coordinator under Coach Ken Niamatalolo in the Naval Academy. Okay. So it was a really good job, good stepping stone for me. Really loved that job, loved the whole service academy feel, loved the players, really disciplined, awesome energy, good leadership by Coach Ken, and then had opportunity to go to the University of South Florida. And I've always talked about that as kind of being my big break. So Coach Mike Canales at the time was the receiver coach, and then he got promoted to offensive coordinator. And Coach Canales was my position coach with the Jets, my second go-round there.
Okay.
So he was comfortable with me. We had kept in contact, and that was a really good lesson because I knew I wanted to get into coaching when I was, an average as pie receiver and a special teams player in the league. I knew I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to get the most out of that experience and that opportunity as I could. So I really was a sponge in those meetings. I tried to learn as much as I possibly could, not just about receiver play, but about O-line play and, run schemes, zone schemes, different things. I just knew that would be, an option for me, when the NFL thing was going to be over. And obviously at that point, when you're just trying to fight to make a roster, you typically know that financially you're going to have another job, if you're a realistic person. And I'm very rational when it comes to those types of things. Having the ability to self-evaluate, be self-deprecating, and understand, you're not just going to make it the day that you cash one game check. It's not all over.
Correct.
So I had a really good relationship with Coach Canales. So he convinced Jim Levitt to bring me down for an interview at USF. So Jim interviewed me and then like 15 other coaches. And so 3 weeks later, I get a call from Jim, and he's got that real raspy voice. He's like, "Oh yeah, cool, Phil, yeah, they're gonna hire you." And how fast can you get down here? I'm like, "Well, I am in Rhode Island, right here in Newport, Rhode Island. I can probably get down there in a day." So he called me on a Friday. I drove down on a Saturday. I was there by Sunday and working by Monday. So that's kind of how we started to roll.
Right.
So I was there for 3 seasons. I worked with Skip Holtz too. He was the next coach at USF. I worked with him for 2 years. Was with Joe Philbin with the Dolphins. I was the assistant receiver coach for 3 seasons. I got promoted in 2015 to the receiver coach, and had an opportunity to go to the Bills. I went to East Carolina after the Dolphins' first season, went to the Bills, and now I've been with the Chargers for 3 years. I'm 40 years old, and everything is
going well.
And we're working hard, and we're trying to get better every day.
Yeah, I missed you by a decade. I'm down here in Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
So I trained some of the guys at USF, so it's a nice little area.
Yeah, I love that program. I really love that program, and I know Coach Scott from Clemson. I've known him for a long time. Coached many of his guys at this level, so I'm excited about that program and what they can do. And it always will have a special place in my heart. At University of South Florida and Tampa in general. I have family in Riverview and Bradenton and things of that nature. So. I always have a special place for USF. Right.
And kind of back to, what you went to school for and everything. Was it, I know you mentioned like you always kind of had an idea you wanted to coach, but at any point were you going to do what you studied in college, or was it just like, forget that, I'm just going to go right into coaching after playing? Like, that's what I want to do.
That's a wonderful question. And absolutely. So I got out of, the Saints training camp in 2004. And I went into commercial real estate for a brief time, for a couple of years, trying to get my body back right. You think you could still play and all these things. That period of time was very important because I realized that I didn't really love corporate America or I wasn't going to, I knew that I had to go back to school, finish my degree, and then get into coaching. So it was something that, it sounds nice sometimes depending on your personality structure, your weaknesses to, get into a business corporate structure or do something like that, entrepreneurship or marketing or, management or things of that nature, finance. It wasn't for me, I had a lot left competitively, and I had a lot of information. Working, as a receiver under, Gary Kubiak was the offensive coordinator. Mike McCarthy was offensive coordinator. Coach Shanahan was the head coach. Coach Gruden was the head coach. Herm Edwards, Paul Hack. I had a lot of really good teachers. So I had a lot of information that I wanted to share because I felt like I knew so much more than when I was a college player that I could share to the younger generations, and I felt like I could teach it well. And I love, I'm oldest of 7 kids, and I love to be around people and be a part of something greater than myself. So that's kind of how we got rolling, and that's really where we're at.
Yeah, it's funny you say that I'm kind of in that position right now where, you go from playing, whether it's college or NFL ball, full-time working out and shaving, and you go to work a desk job or the corporate America, and you just sit there and you're like, what am I doing with my life? I mean, right now I'm a full-time graphic designer, and I went from college to working and just sitting at that desk all day. You're like, man, I could be doing something else that I really love and want to go work and do that every day. So I completely understand that shift over from corporate America.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Yeah. It's not for everybody, and everybody has their own path. And I figured, everything in life is accomplished with passion, and I had more passion, even though the money was a lot less than what I was making, at a desk job. back to make zero, for
Mm-hmm.
this month, and then 12,000 for the next year.
Yeah.
That's not a whole lot of money. So the thing that I took from that is you better love it before you try to get paid doing a job like coaching. So
Right.
most of the really good ones I know, they have similar stories to that, and that's basically where we're at.
Yeah, because if you're doing it for free and you love it, when you start to get paid, it's even better.
Yeah,
You can do it
there's a
either
bunch
way.
of old analogies that say you find something you never work a day in your life, and all of those. That's true. It is really true.
Really
now it is still work, but in relation to doing things that you don't necessarily enjoy as much, working an 18-hour day in coaching, is a lot more enjoyable than working an 18-hour day in another industry that I didn't enjoy.
Absolutely. Yeah, completely agree. So how many years total, if you even know, have you been coaching?
Yeah, so I would say 13 or 14 in that range. So I started in 2007. So this would be the 14th season. Is that how it breaks down? Yeah.
Something like that. Close enough. And my question for that is,
7, 8, 9, 10, and then, you add another 10 into it. That's 14, right? We're not going to count our hands.
Correct.
Now you can see why I didn't go into business with a business degree.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So over those years, you've been around a lot of coaches. Which coaches, whether when you were playing or just from coaching, that you looked up to the most or learned the most from during your playing days or coaching, and someone that you would recommend myself and others to check out?
Yeah, so there's a lot of them, as a player. So and I'll just kind of give you a snapshot of what I thought people did really well. And you try to take little bits and pieces of yourself and little tips from all the different people you come across. But I think Herm Edwards, he really treated people fairly. He treated people well. He had a really good personality, and people liked playing for him. I thought that was important to understand that, you can be detailed and disciplined, but he just was a genuinely likable person. So it was nice to see that type of interaction. And then going over to Denver with Mike Shanahan, he had an unbelievable program where it was in place, it was running. He was a great teacher, not just of the players, but also of the coaches. And he brought in so many great coaches, including Coach Lynn, into this profession, and guys I've worked for in the past, Rick Dennison, Gary Kubiak. Guys that, really helped me in my career. And Carl Durrell was my position coach, so I learned that surrounding yourself with other like-minded people, they can really bring your career up to where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
If you have really good teachers and really good men. So it wasn't just about all the X's and O's. It was about treating people right and communicating, and treating you like a man, treating like an adult. So I thought that was fantastic. Coach Gruden was really demanding. He was very intelligent. So I said, wow, there's a side of it too. He had an edge. He was funny. Coach Gruden was an awesome resource to me, even when he was living in Tampa and I was at USF. Mm-hmm. The unbelievable amount of videos over there. Carrollwood Day would come down to practice and the camps and things of that nature. So, Coach Gruden was an unbelievable resource from learning how to be detailed and to learn verbiage, things that were going to have to be tagged and shifts and motions and just the detail of how you're going to call plays and why you shift in motion and gaining advantages, competitive advantages through different looks. So, coach was important for that. And then going down to the Saints, learning, Coach Haslett was head coach, but Mike McCarthy was the offensive coordinator then. We talked about being, an attacking style on offense and just, giving quarterbacks checks. And a lot of it was important too, with having overpopulated boxes. We were doing things on the perimeter, before RPOs were RPOs. Coach McCarthy we had those types of things that were built into the call. So, not getting into bad plays, and giving the quarterback, ability and a receiver's ability to be involved in the backside of some run plays. I thought he was very innovative and was very creative. So, I took something from all those people, as a player. Then when I got into coaching, obviously Coach Cosgrove gave me the big break at Maine. Ken Niumatalolo was an unbelievable leader at Navy. Jim Levitt taught me about work ethic and putting in the time, countless hours. So he started me, in those inhumane coaches hours that, everybody talks about. He was the one who taught me how to work the right way. Skip Holtz taught me a lot about how you raise a program and build from within, and the philosophy about a coach-player relationship, the staff, things of that nature. And Coach Philbin and Coach Sherman were the two that I was with in the Dolphins, and they taught me how to be a professional football coach when it came to detail, naming your drills, putting together a playbook, all the foundational work that we all rely on a day-to-day basis. And the same things that I teach all the young coaches, whether it's a quality control coach, an intern, or if it's a GA when I'm in college, their system of the way that you need to put together a visual playbook, the way you need to do things schematically, the presentation of football, just the way that the attention to detail that I was taught at that stage. I was probably in probably 31 or 32 at that time, and it was very, very important to have that foundation at that point in your life, because those are your habits that you develop.
Of course.
And then obviously everybody else from there on out has been obviously integral, but those are the ones that really at that point, that's where you have that foundation. We hit like about 34, 35, at least for me.
Right.
That was like, okay, I have enough now to where I can do this and run my own room and teach other coaches how to run their own room too. I think that's one of the most gratifying thing when you have young GAs and stuff, and now they're assistant head coaches and coordinators and things in college, and they're running and they're getting married and having big families. And, that's super gratifying, to see them come from the hourly employee rate, that $12,000.
Yeah.
And, cause it's cyclical, I had people that helped me out, so you got to pay it forward.
Of course. Yeah. And when you get started, you're just a sponge, and then, you learn and you put your own twist on things. And, like with me with the train, I'm learning that as I go too. Like I'm watching other guys. I like that. Let me add that. Let me put my style to it. So I can only imagine over those years of just soaking it all in and learning from those great coaches. That's awesome to hear.
I'll tell you one thing too about like seeing your work come back to you, but better. So I coached Brian Hartline at the Dolphins for 3 seasons. So now I have KJ Hill in our room here with the Chargers. We took him in the 7th round. So obviously, like Hartline took the things that he learned from me and made him his own, made him better, and then you see KJ and then all these other young players that are playing really well in this league. Again, another gratifying moment, like a proud papa. You see one of the guys that you worked with closely, that you're really close with his wife, close with his mother, close with his brother, like people that and you trust and care about, and you see them developing players and have the same passion, energy, and enthusiasm for this job. That's super gratifying. And I didn't understand when I was younger how good that would feel when you see somebody as successful as Brian and some of the other young coaches that are now getting jobs, and that you worked with as players and that you worked with as coaches. It's very rewarding. Yeah,
seeing it and just getting a message from them like, hey, thanks so much. I've learned so much over the years. It's just, like you said, it feels good, that you help someone else just like someone else helped you. Yeah, that's awesome. And over those years, like when you started until now, how do you think your coaching style changed over the years?
I think I might be a little bit more inclined to ask people what they saw and why they did what they did, rather than just jumping them straight away.
Yeah.
I'm a loud person, and guys who play for me know I can get a little bit passionate about what we're trying to get done. So I think I've become a little bit more patient and become a better teacher, and had a little bit more interaction and dialogue about, what they're seeing and why an error occurred, and then trying to be proactive to prevent that from happening again. So I just think as you get older, there's no substitute for experience. That's what Jim Levitt taught me when I was a first-year coach in 2009 at USF. So this is probably my 3rd year coaching overall at that time, and he's telling me there's no substitute for experience. And I said, well, I don't have experience. He's like, well, you're going to learn, you have to you're going to have to make up for it with work ethic. So I think that over time, as the more you do this job, some of the tasks that were very difficult early on in your career because you didn't know where to start, you know how to start, middle, and end the project, in a very efficient way that you can hand it to your coordinator, to your head coach, whoever's asked you to do it, whether it be combine analysis, free agency, receiver manual, presentations, things of that nature, a clinic, where do you, how do you put this together? You just know how to do it now. So that experience is probably, it just, you'll get better at all these things that you're doing. It's just the repetitions. It's just like any other time.
More detailed too.
Correct.
Definitely a lot more detailed. I can imagine that.
Correct.
Cool. So I'm just curious, what do you think are some of the most important qualities as a receiver coach?
Sure. So I remember you saying these early on, and like, Zach Taylor and I were he was the assistant quarterbacks coach and I was the assistant receiver coach. And I said, what's really important is a guy who is tough and can catch the ball. And he's like, Okay, and then he's responsible for now an entire NFL team. And, as we've gotten farther along in our career, you understand like what you mean by that when you have players like a Jarvis, Landry, or Keenan Allen, and guys that are really competitive, really tough, who catch the ball consistently. It's an underrated talent, like just possessing the football when you're getting contact and doing it consistently. So first of all, I'm looking for tough physical players, guys that are rough, guys that can get in there and block, and guys that love to compete. Those are very important things. And then catching the football, it's in our job description at wide receiver. Everyone gets so enamored with all these height, weight, speed, and all these measurables, all these 40 times and all that stuff. But if you're putting the ball on the ground, then we're going to have to, talk about sending you to So, at this point in time, it's, I call it the swimsuit competition. That's over. The combine's over. The draft's over. That's a swimsuit competition. We're in it now, and we're going. So I think those two things, being able to catch and possess the football and being physically and mentally tough are the building blocks. Those are prerequisites. Those are things that you must have to play at this level.
Yeah, all that other stuff goes out the window. Once you put the pads on, you just got to catch the ball. It's funny you bring up Jarvis and Keenan. Actually, I had a question about them. So, you have the opportunity to coach Keenan now and Jarvis when he had a phenomenal year. I can't remember the exact year it was. He had over 100 catches. But what do you think makes them so special? Like, what do they do different than other guys to perform at such a high level like that?
They're both very intelligent players. So, look, the game plan, they master it. They know it. They know the details. They know the techniques. They know the counters. They know the first plan, second plan, third plan of a release pattern. They understand what everybody else is doing on the field, where the running back is, and the progression as well. So which he's going to pry open the will linebacker when I'm running the wrap in. They understand the schematic, how this whole play unfolds. They don't just know the route and the route depth. They understand how it all works together. They will block you into the earth physically too. So, you better understand like what you're getting into when you have these two players standing in front of you and players of that top level competitive nature. They don't want to give the bone away in any play. So, I think their competitiveness, their intelligence are two supremely underrated aspects.
They go hand in hand for sure. Absolutely. No, it's good to hear because I'm always just curious that, because you're around them all the time and when you're in the NFL, everyone's good, but how are these great guys separating from the rest of the pack?
Yeah. Those are the attributes I'm most proud of in those guys, like the ones I brag on them the most about.
Right. I would brag too. What values or beliefs do you have for your receiver core? Wherever you go that you take with you, that you install that into them.
From player to coach or coach to player, or what do you, as far as in the room, is that what you're saying? Like,
yeah, kind of like what's important to you for these guys to have, just like your values and beliefs.
Yeah, I think obviously we want the guys to be leaders. Some people lead differently, so just promoting them in a leadership role. Some guys are very quiet. Some guys don't have verbose vocabulary, so they're inherently more introverted. That doesn't mean they can't be a leader. So I try to promote the leadership qualities within them. So some guys, like, Coach, I don't feel comfortable talking in front. Well, you go out there and you practice what you've been practicing and keep doing what you're doing, and you'll be able to quietly pull a young guy along. So just trying to promote their leadership, in their own way, their own unique way. So, whether it's leading by example or verbal leadership, whatever they're comfortable with, just trying to get everybody to lead, in some capacity in that room. Be students of the game, be detailed, be fundamentally sound, making sure that people understand the why. So I'll try to do my best to not just go through the routes, but I'll explain to them the why, conceptually why these routes will work and why we're running them. Also in run game, if we're running a trap to the 3 technique or we're whamming the nose, I'll tell them what we're doing and why this is a downhill run play or this is what's going on here. So you got to get in your blocks more quickly. If we're going outside runs, then this is what I want you to do from a technique standpoint because of the why here. So I think it's important to teach and make them accountable for the why, not just on their specific assignments, but as they progress, especially over multiple years with a high level player. He might have the aspirations of becoming a football coach like Phillip Rivers did today. So, if they know the why, they'll be more equipped to transition, which is a huge issue for former players, transitioning to finding something that they value that gives them self-worth. And you can also pass value on to others. And then when you pass that value on to others, then it comes back to you and you don't even realize how good that's going to feel. So try to tell the why if you have time on all of it, and especially over long off-season programs. We're on Zoom calls for hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Explain the why to them, and eventually it'll just be second nature, just like their own assignments are.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and it shows that you care when you explain the why, and they respect you a lot more when you're not just, here's the answer, get out of here. You're actually teaching them, whatever it is that you're going over. Sure. So you said with all the Zoom calls, how have you guys been operating like during this time, just as a core? Is it just all Zoom calls? Just multiple times a week?
Yeah, every morning, we have the league mandated, a certain specific schedule as we kind of go through this thing. So, they have their special teams meeting. They, so they'll get 3 Zoom codes. Boom, here's a special teams meeting, 8 to 8:30. They pop out. They get a 10-minute break. They might be in with Shane Steichen, our offensive coordinator, and he might have going over 2-minute or whatever broad-based offensive meeting for a brief period of time, 10, 15 minutes. That's in. Then they're out of that meeting. Hey, take 5 minutes real quick. Grab a cup of coffee, we'll be back in here. And then boom, we're going through, our teaching for the day, the whole thing, the install. So that's basically how it works. And we'll be in there, until 10 a.m. And then they work out on their own and, in their private facilities or at their home. Obviously John Lott, our strength coach, is an individualized approach that's focused on player safety and being responsible and from a social distancing standpoint. So we've been creative, as an organization. Coach Lynn has allowed us to be very creative with our virtual playbooks and our install. Mm-hmm. Seth Ryan is the assistant in the receiver room, the number 2. And he's done a really good job of being creative and intuitive in nature to some of the quizzes and testing and some of the ways that we can make it fun and competitive in the room from a retention standpoint and making it interactive with the guys. So, it's been – at first I was resistant to it because nobody particularly likes change. Right. This is not the same. It's not the same, but if you're creative and you're open-minded and you have a young assistant like Seth, bounce ideas off each other and he's made me a better coach because I've understood some of the technological things that we can use to be really good teachers. So I think it's only going to enhance what we're bringing to the meeting room when we get back in there together.
Yeah, no, I think, it's a great time for people to just kind of sit back. Like we have an excuse to not be able to go out. Like it's a great time to sit back and learn and do other things. Like this is a time where, successful companies and people can still be successful through tough times. That's what the company I work for right now, that's where our CEO said, they said, good businesses survive in tough times. So it's kind of the same thing where, this is not easy for you guys, but we can make it happen. We got virtual calls. If we were a couple of years back, you guys wouldn't be able to do this.
Right. So. Somebody's going to come out of this meeting time ahead of another team. So it's competitive in nature, and all 31 other teams are doing the same thing. So we're trying to understand that, like, the more we can teach our players and more creative in the different ways that we can implement our strategy, it's going to help us when we hit the grass here soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. You brought it up briefly. I was curious because I see a lot of these guys just working out with, random trainers and whoever their guy is, but I didn't know if you're putting together workouts for these guys, or is it just kind of like, hey, we talk and communicate with what we need to, and then you guys can also just go do your thing.
I think it's a collaboration. So they know the fundamentals that we teach and how we teach it. Right. They have a lot of guys have, we always did as players too. We had a place that we went and trained in the off season. There's a social aspect to that as well. I mean, they have teammates, friends, and college players that they've amassed over, a decade or more of football at a high level. So a lot of times guys go and train together and you learn from each other. And then you have, a lot of times I've met the privatized coach, and was able to collaborate and just talk philosophically. Like, oh, I know this guy, and he does a really good job.
Yeah.
So there's a trust factor that's associated with, coach to coach. Again, obviously, I trust that they're going to do a great job with them and have their best interest in heart. We're all professionals. We're all doing a job. So I think that's always been something that's, then again, these guys, Coach Lott's going to tell them exactly what they need to work on, to increase their hip mobility, flexibility, lower body strength, upper body strength. So they have check marks they can hand to their off-season coach as well, and their off-season coach can give them some, again, more ideas, new ideas, things that they can do, and working together. I think having that synergy, understanding that we have one player and we are both responsible to help this guy get to as high a level as possibly can be. So as long as everybody's on the same page, player safety is the number one job we have. So if we're doing it safely, I think then we're all after the same thing, and not two dogs fighting over one bone. I don't think that's necessarily a good approach to have.
I love hearing that from you, not worrying about your egos. At the end of the day, you guys want these guys to get better. It's all about them. So being able to build a relationship with that trainer, because it's easy for, him to be like, man, we're doing our own thing, or, for an NFL coach to say, I'm his coach, I'm at this level, stay away from my guy. So I love hearing that from you about just,
I think that you just have to understand the nature of the private coaches. I mean, I know like Chip Smith and guys I worked with when I was coming out. I love these guys. They were like, they had my back at a time where I was just trying to figure out, how to do my own laundry and balance a checkbook. Yeah. So they have a role. I've known these guys for almost 20 years now. Wow. So, you just have to understand that you're their coach. So it's going to be their scheme football coach, where it's correction, good job. Correction, good job. When you go to these privatized centers, you're just working. There's no right or wrong. They're not doing scheme work. They're not digging out the safety and coverage. They're working out. Everyone likes to work out, at that age, especially at your own pace. And, it's a different deal. So if you understand fundamentally what they're providing, it's a different energy. So why am I going to go head to head? And you can learn from everybody. I literally go on a Zoom call with Mark Kurtstetter and other 8 or 10 other high school coaches, and I just listen to them, just learn football. So if you have a huge ego and you think that you can't learn from anybody, regardless of what they're doing and what capacity you're doing, if they're doing it privately or they're doing, high-level offensive coordinator work at the high school level or FCS level, what makes them any less qualified to tell me about a scheme and why you're running? If you can tell me the why, we're running that to the 9 technique, or hey, that's versus cover 2, or that's RPO, and we have an overloaded box, and we're going to read that overhang will linebacker. So if you can tell me the why, I say, okay, you know what, we get that look as well. So I think that that's something that in time, as you get more experienced, you don't just huddle up and grab everything and say, this is mine. You have enough confidence that you add value to your receivers in your own way. There's other people in the world that can add value to your players, not just you as well. So, and again, the collective bargaining agreement dictates that I have to let these guys, they're like my sons, but I got to let them go from, after the last playoff game is over. I don't get them back till April 20th this year. And then the first 2 weeks is just, it's not even on the field work with me. It's all, so that's a significant amount of time from basically February to April. That's a significant time that you're separated from them. So I hope that you would trust the person that they're working with over a 3 or 4 month period of time.
I really like, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start this. So I've been calling this Coach Talk, one for me to learn. And also, I get tons of messages too from young GAs and stuff like, hey, how do I do this and that? And I was like, I need to start talking with these more experienced coaches that everyone can learn from. So, a lot of guys are going to watch this and learn a ton of things from you. And like you said, you can learn from anyone at any level. I mean, I go on Twitter every day and I swear I learn something new. I walk away with 5 new buzzwords, and I'm following guys like you, college coaches, high school coaches. So it's a fun way just to collaborate and just learn from everyone. At the end of the day, the goal is the same thing for everyone. Everyone's trying to make these guys successful. So
we're trying to advance the game. So I feel like you have a responsibility if you're in a position, like the other 31 coaches that I've had the privilege of getting to know over the years that coach receivers at this level. I mean, it's an honor and a privilege to be here, So try to advance the game with your information, as long as it's not schematic and it's not an advantage from a X's and O's, where it's proprietary information that you and your staff are using in a game plan situation. If it's fundamentals and technique that could help young receivers get more out of their athletic career, my nature is not to just huddle around the information. Again, I love to watch the clips on Twitter that you guys have, and the rocker steps and the different words and the buzzwords. I love seeing it. Some of the ones I'm using, some of the ones I said, I like that term. That's a good term. I like listening to people. I mean, that's really how you can grow in this profession, because if you're talking all the time, you're not learning anything.
Hmm. Yeah. And how do you kind of keep things fresh? I mean, is it kind of just like you were talking about, where just because you've been, 14 years or so, and it's all kind of the same thing. Just how do you, where do you, you have any resources that you go to constantly look for stuff, or just how do you keep it fresh?
Yeah, so there's a lot of really good coaches in this league, and we really do a good job of collaborating and sharing technique and ideas, and drills. So, like, for example, I'll tell you like a good story about Adam Henry. He's the receiver coach for the Cowboys now. He had Jarvis and Odell in college. So I went down to the LSU Pro Day in 2014. So I get down there and I said, hey, can we watch some practice tape together? Because I wanted to see how they practice. Because like, obviously they were high draft picks and they're very successful. But again, if I'm going to stand at the table for a guy, I want to know how he works.
Right.
I want to know his effort. So we sat there with Adam and he showed me a bunch of drills. So I said, man, I like these drills. So we were installing some new pass concepts, some new techniques from a numbers-based passing offense, and he was in a numbers-based passing offense. So we just looked at some drills. I stole a few drills and just some different techniques. So I got so much out of that one visit. So I call that technique chaining your drills. So when you're having an individual drill, not only you have a stance and start and you just go off the ball, once you've taught the foundation of all your different techniques, chain the drills over and over again. So you can have a stance and start, a release, a square cut, a speed cut, an acute comeback, and then maybe a speed cut going out and a toe drag, or a tight in cut, a square cut in, where you catch the ball, high and tight ball security, late lock on a stiff arm. That's chaining your drills together. All right. Mm-hmm. So that was one thing that I wanted to really do a great job of it. So like when I go to a pro day, I try to chain my visit. So I'm going there to evaluate players, but I'm also trying to learn from coaches. So I try to get there a day early, fly in a day early, and ask a lot of questions to that position coach. Like, what are you doing for drills? Can I see your drills? And just always citing my sources, saying, hey, I'm going to take that one, and,
yeah.
and you might end up taking a drill and building it within another drill. So just taking components of different things and learning. So I try to keep it fresh by collaborating with other really well-respected coaches that do it really, really well as well.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, you do a drill, and then while you're doing the drill, you're like, oh, we can remove that cone and do this, or, we can work a release here instead. It's funny how you can just combine everything. Really chain. I love that, chaining that together. I'm gonna steal that from you.
It's no problem. And
I'll source you too.
Yeah, cite your sources, and people never get angry. So, but again, I'll go to Keenan. I'll say, hey, this is what we're gonna do in individual. And I'll pull it up. I might have a video of it when we did it, a drill in Buffalo, or we did it in Miami. And I'll say, hey, what do you think about this? And then, what if I think I take this? And then I put the next clip and I said, what if we add this at the end? And you're like, I don't know if I want to do that one today. Why don't we do that one, in OTAs, because that one's going to be a lot of my legs. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. I don't want to crush you today. So you just have to talk back and forth. And that never really happened, but just, you got to communicate with these guys. Or, hey, what do you want to work on? Releases. Okay, we need releases, coach, and I want to work sideline toe drags today. Okay, cool. Let's do stand, start, release, square, speed, boundary. I'll pin you to the boundary, Seth, pin them to the boundary, make them do the 2-foot toe drag swag, and we're rolling through the drill. So listen to them and have an answer. So I always talk about you're like a physician, and your players have different ailments. Each one is individual. So when a guy comes into your urgent care, if you're a physician, they're coming in there because they need your help right away. So each player has different problems and need to work on certain things. So you got to be able to write that prescription and hand it to them, and they need to get better.
Right.
So that's essentially, you should watch your tape. Like, okay, we didn't do real well in these 3 areas. I'm going to make sure, for sure, tomorrow my drills reflect the deficiencies that practice tape are uncovering.
That's fine. I swear you're answering all the questions I have. One of the questions was like, how do you operate? Like do you take notes on specific players? Like, I was just curious, like, or do you freestyle like the day before, like, okay, from last practice, I think we need to work on square cuts and maybe we do speed cuts, or do you have like a set plan, like going into OTAs, like this week we're doing this, we're doing that, like kind of just how do you decide what you're going to do? Like, is it all laid out, or do you just have a full notebook of drills and you just kind of take pieces whenever you need them?
So at the first 2 weeks, I have an Excel spreadsheet, and I got to check all their individual fundamentals, stand, start, stalk, inside run, outside run, protection, collection, all the different, rewash, all the different techniques that I need them to know. I install those individually. So there might be like 6 in a 10-minute period. There might be 10 and a 15-minute period where we're hitting them. They're very simple, but I want to make sure they understand what I'm asking for. So I build this foundation. It's one page of an Excel spreadsheet, and I know which ones, and I do make sure we hit all those. So from those, we will chain all those different individual activities and movements and functional movements and techniques and fundamentals into what our individual period would be. So after we start going competitive, so for the first 2 weeks, we're just on our own. There is, 3 weeks, there is no defense in front of us. So we build the foundation, we frame the house up. We got the foundation, we got it. And then at that point, once the house is framed up, now you pick out your interior. You got the granite countertops and stainless steels. That's individualized.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So each person gets to pick out, what they want, and obviously some people like different things or need different work on different, some people do things naturally. Some guys just speed cut like they came out the womb. Whack, whack, speed cut. So we don't need to do, so that's, we just keep those sharp. Some guys, they just can't speed cut. They're tall, they're raising up, and they're just
everyone's different. Yeah.
Deers, running out there. So we just got to work on different things. So typically the tape will tell us what we need to work on. And then the benefits of another two things that are really good about this, the way that we work, this is our third year together, Seth and I. So I'll say, hey, Seth, what do you think we need to work on today? So I give him some voice and some ownership, and he'll tell me, okay, well, I think we need to do this. And 9 out of 10 times I say, that's a good idea. You're right. And because, again, what is the first thing we talked about? Telling them the why. So Seth, why we want to do that drill? Oh, because, we didn't do a great job. We were way too high on our arm over. We were all up on the forearm. I wanted them down on the wrist on our side of the drill. So I want to make sure we go over that again. And I said, yeah, you're right. I saw that too. Let's work that again today. So I think that's really important that you also ask, if you have a number 2 in the room or somebody else like a GA, if someone's working with you, give them a voice. If you train, like the first year, obviously I didn't ask them as much as I do now being in the third year, because hopefully if you're training them correctly and they're smart and they're intelligent and they're passionate and they're hungry and they have great work ethic like Seth, they'll get better. So they'll be able to, 4 eyes are better than 2. You should be concerned with your assistant coach, letting them talk in the room, like give them a voice. You'd be surprised, how far the people will go if you encourage them, to be a teacher in their own way.
And they'll spark ideas for you, bouncing around ideas. I mean, like the company I'm at now, before, about a month ago, I was the one and only designer there, and we just brought in someone new. And now it's like a whole new world, 4 eyes, we're bouncing around ideas and this. So I can only imagine, in a football office, having another, NFL guys that know their stuff and having another coach, just that collaboration,
for sure.
Bouncing around ideas, just constantly learning. So I can imagine that.
I would imagine that Google and Twitter and Peloton, these companies are doing well. I'm sure that they'll just sit in their own little offices and cubicles, just flush ideas out. I'm certain that they're collaborating and they're discussing. It's a think tank and they're bouncing ideas off, and it's loose, and it's, you don't want people to feel afraid to be creative. So that's the second thing, is be creative. Like, it will get stale if you say, okay, well, McGeoghan gave me this packet, this manual, and we're going to stick to that. Like, that's not what Heartline's doing. Heartline's being creative. He's like, man, he's putting his own spin on it. And what you're getting is one of the best receiving corps in the nation. Because he's played at Ohio State, he's played in the NFL, he's creative, he's young, it's like, those are all things that you got to nurture. You got to bring that out of people when they're in your room, whether it's your players. And if you don't think you can't learn from your players, of different things, like you have a Greg Jennings in your room when I'm a receiver coach for the Dolphins. You don't think Greg Jennings knows a thing or two, or Chad Johnson or Anquan Bolden?
Right.
What you're talking about. So I think it starts with you. Are you willing to ask anybody and everybody what they think? Ultimately,
and you don't want people to be scared of speaking out too. Like, a lot of people hold back, like they don't want to speak up if they're, that was a stupid question. You want to have that free speech that people can just be like comfortable, like, hey, coach, we should try this, or whether that's your assistant coach too. So that's very important.
And again, you got to teach people, like, okay, the appropriate time to have input is when we're in the air conditioning. Like, when we're on the grass, that's not how it works. If you have an input, like, anybody have any questions, problems, or concerns? They blow out of the meeting room. Okay. Or guys are, hey, can we do, so give them a chance to talk. But when we get on the grass, we know what it is,
get heated out there. Yeah.
They know what it is. I mean, it is, we're all those types of people. But again, we collaborate and all that stuff is fun, but when we hit the grass, that's the plan.
All business.
So we hit just like in a game, like we give people a lot of, leeway and input as we build a game plan throughout the week, where we adjust techniques and splits and all types of things throughout the week. But when we hit the grass on Saturday for that walkthrough, it is done. The game plan is ready to go. And Sunday we got to execute. We all got to be unified. The time for freelancing and having your opinion, that was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're going into
had the chance.
So, I think it's creating an environment where people can be creative. They're not afraid to voice their opinion, but also having order and when the appropriate times to express that. Our doors are always open in the off season. They're always open in practice time. They're always open, training camp. They're always open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Right. And we all get on the same page. We've had some really, really good players here, some Hall of Fame guys that, have been at this program. So to think that you're the coach and they're the player and you can't learn from them after they've been playing this league 15 years, it's nonsense. You got to collaborate. And again, the good ones respect the player-coach relationship, and the good coaches respect it as well.
Mm-hmm. And the players will work harder when they like the coach. We've all been around a coach that we loved and one that we weren't so fond of. And you know how much harder you work when you love the coach and respect them. You'll go that extra mile.
Agreed. And
I get that.
And when you like your players and you really care about them, how much later you'll stay in that office trying to find one more route that's going to get them a third down conversion.
So you get the text from your wife.
Yeah. We're all human beings. We got families at home, and if you love your players, the way that you do, it's funny. You really care about getting them every possible thing, and so we're all human beings. So it's helpful when you're respectful to one another and you have respect for each other as men, first.
Right. Yeah, I love all that. I'll switch it up a little bit. I'm curious at how the virtual draft was for you, how that was any different.
Yeah, obviously it's challenging, and that's, a general manager question and all those things. So, So we handled that really well. Our IT department was fantastic. What they were able to do and get everybody done with getting our information to all our respective coaches so we could still be here in our living rooms and we could be breaking down tapes and typing reports on each of these draft eligible players. I thought we did an excellent job as an organization, especially the support staff people that don't get any credit for what they do. And and they're not the most highly compensated people in the building, but they are unbelievable and they're invaluable. Unbelievable what they did. They didn't miss a beat. We're talking about, we're meeting off site. We're dropping laptops and hard drives in the car. He's driving off. I'm picking it. It's, we were responsible with our social distancing. We were sterilizing the materials. We were sending them back in. We were very proactive about staying ahead of the curve with the information and how it needed to be disseminated to our position coaches and staff. And without them, that's the one thing that I took from this is that some people I want in my foxhole, going forward by the way that they handle this pandemic situation. Yeah.
And that it went pretty smooth for the amount of work that had to go behind that with all the technology, the cameras and everything. I thought it went pretty smooth. A lot of people enjoyed it.
I agree.
Yeah. And off that, what were some specific things that stuck out to you about Joe Reed and KJ Hill? Like, because there was other guys, what are some things that stuck out that you loved from both those guys?
Yeah. So just, Joe Reed is an unbelievable person. He's a very dynamic kick returner, very productive college player, fantastic young man, great family, great background. Just, it's hard not to see him being successful at this level. And we're really excited about him coming here, competing and adding value to this roster. And then, KJ Hill, another ultra productive receiver at Ohio State, very high up in every single category at Ohio State. Just a remarkable young man. Again, a hardworking kid out of Arkansas, great family. Excited about him, the way he's able to work in the slot and the way he's able to go outside and have his learning, his intelligence. So those guys, they're really good football players. They're really good people.
I agree.
So when you have really good football players and really good people, and we already have a really good group of good football players and good people that are very productive in this league at this point, that's what you want. And Tom Telesco added unbelievable people and really good football players to this roster, and that he deserves to be commended for that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. So for the guys coming in, like, what's the starting point for a rookie coming into minicamp? Like, where do you even begin with them?
Yeah, so we tell them about the expectations. I don't have a whole bunch of rules. It's just how we're gonna learn and how we're gonna communicate and what to expect. What's expected of me, coach? Like, what do I have to do to do a good job? So we just clearly communicate the standard and what the standard is and how to meet it or exceed it. Those types of things, we do a good job of explaining that. And then we go right into that general information section of the playbook: huddle, snap count, formations, motions, shifts. And just start going. Because if you can't line up, you can't play.
I'll probably ask this question for really every interview I do, because you coach at the college level, coach at the NFL. What do you look? And I get this question a lot from younger guys. What do you look for in a high school player going into college?
Yeah. So the first thing is, can they go to class and do the schoolwork? If they're not available, then like what we're not in this for kinder care and romper room where I'm giving you 3 hots in the cot and you're just not available because you're suspended or you're not handling. Be a man, be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. So do they have a history of truancy and, are they pain in the rear to all their people in their community, in their town, or are they a joy and a delight for their high school head coach? So right away, like, what am I getting? Same thing. Like, what's the standard? What's the expectations? So I think it's important to just be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. All right. And the proper, learning demeanor when you get into a meeting room, like what type of maturity level are we dealing with here? I think that's really important to understand. And then, after you get through like the character portion, just saying they've checked all the boxes, what type of athlete do you have, on what are the strengths and what are the weaknesses? So a lot of times guys come out of high school and they go to college, they've done one thing really well. They've been a high point jump ball guy. They've been a lateral quickness, shake guy in the slot, wearing guys out. We want you just do that this year really well, just like you did in high school. And we're going to round out the rough edges of your game in all these different areas, and it will come. And you might be redshirting, you might be starting. I don't know, but here's where we are, and these are the things that you did really well last year. And let's just keep doing that one thing awesome here at this level, all right? And just do that one thing, and then there's 50 other things that we're going to get you better at, and they will all come at different times throughout your career here in college.
Yeah, it's amazing how much you learn that first year of college. You think you're good, and then you come around, 10 other guys are just as good as you. And now it's how do you separate yourself? You really get into the details, because before, half of the guys don't even go on to play college, and you can just run, you're 4-6 down the field, catch the ball, score a touchdown. But now when you get to the next level, it's like, how do I keep advancing? How do I get better? What are the details? And most of the time, the college coaches are better than the high school coaches, so you're taking in more details and everything. So. Yeah, that's great insight, because I get that question so much from younger guys. Just how do I play college football? What do coaches look for? So yeah, they love that stuff to hear. And so, kind of stepping away from the coaching side, have you had a chance to check out the new stadium and everything?
We took a tour in the summer of 2018, I believe. And it was it was like a quarter of the way done, and we've gotten renderings and videos and things like that. And I guess it's nearing completion, so excited about that.
Yeah, because like I said, I'm graphic design, so I saw like the new stadium. You guys did all new branding. Like, they hook you guys up with some new gear. Like, you got the new uniforms, everything. Yeah. Like, you guys are gonna be looking good this year.
Yeah, once we get back in there. Right now, it's just I've been in my kitchen and living room, and for the last basically 2 months, it seems like. So, there'll probably be a lot of interesting things that when we get to the facility that that'll give you a little bit of juice. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, where's the stadium at? Is that I thought I read something. Is it
it's next to the old Forum.
So is that by the airport-ish?
Correct. Yeah, if you're on a descending flight in LAX, there's a high probability you're going to see SoFi Stadium. Yeah,
I lived in LA for a year. 2018, I lived there. So of course, as soon as I move, you guys are there, and LeBron and the Lakers are there. So I got to get back out to LA for a game.
A lot of good sports out here. A lot of good coaches. A lot of good information.
Yeah, well, Coach, I appreciate your time today. I know we're running on close to an hour, so sure. I don't want to take too much time out of your Friday, but I really appreciate you taking the time. I've learned a lot from you, so thanks for supporting the page, taking time out of your day.
Yeah, of course. You guys do a great service for the receiver community.
Thank you.
You're trying to advance the game. You have camps. These things are an invaluable service to what we're all trying to do.
Right.
So we're all in this community together. We're all interconnected, and that's just the way that it has to be. So I really appreciate you bringing me onto this program, and hopefully, we were able to get some of the questions or anything that you needed from me.
Oh yeah,
I'm always here as a resource.
A lot of knowledge. So a lot of guys, including myself, and a lot of guys are going to learn a lot from seeing this. So again, thank you.